Hi, guys. Hello. Welcome back to Spooky Sleuths.
Today, we are here with Lauren Hellickson, a published author and speaker in the paranormal world. Lauren creates and sells unique paranormal equipment and provides lectures on various topics in the paranormal and witchcraft arenas. As a seasoned and accomplished investigator, we are honored to have Lauren join us today. I'm Sammi.
And I'm Nicole, and we are Spooky Sleuths.
Oh my gosh,
I'll scooch in.
I also just noticed your little Funko Pops in the background, and they're so cute.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's what I got Nicole for Christmas. I did
love that.
build your own, design your own ones.
All right, I'm back. ADHD. Hello.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Like, okay, here we go. We're so professional.
Who's going to do it first? Don't let me start. I'll start. I won't stop.
All right, Miss Lauren. So what have you done lately paranormal-wise? Oh, God. Was that too much?
What a loaded question. Wow.
It's like, what have
Where
you done?
should I start? Back in 1992.
I said lately.
Lately. Okay. Sorry.
Recently.
Recently, very, very recently, I build equipment. Like you said, I'm sorry. I'm also stuffing my face with Skittles right now.
No judgment.
That's fine.
I really love Skittles, so I apologize to everybody if you're hearing me chomp on Skittles. I'm sorry, but I'm also not sorry because they're delicious.
Yeah.
I build equipment, and I build it in a way where it's very like Victorian aesthetic. So it's made with a lot of wood, and I do a lot of laser engraving on the wood and everything like that. And I have been doing that for a few years now, and I just recently sort of took a step back from building as a sales sort of thing. So
Okay.
I was using it as my main source of income, which was great, but I was finding myself building just for orders. So I was building the exact same thing, and
Yeah.
it was very hard to find time to create something new. So I was having a really hard time with that. So I recently went back to a day job so that I could take a huge step back from orders. So now I only take I open up a very limited amount of orders so that people can still order equipment, but it's not just like
mass
I'm talking,
produced.
yeah, because I'm the only person that builds it. So I think I was backed up like 3 months on my orders.
Wow.
It was, yeah.
I mean, that's good because you're selling a lot, but also, like you said,
great.
the downsides.
If I just wanted to sell, it would be fantastic because I have an influx. But
Right.
I started to do this because I really wanted to build new things and take things that are already in the paranormal and make them better, and do a lot of social sort of experiments and studies on new techniques. And there's so many different things that I want to tackle. So just being a builder of, 3 pieces of equipment, and then it taking a year or two to come out with something new wasn't cutting it. So
Yeah.
I did go back to work, which was really great because then I was able to sort of streamline some ideas that I had to put them all together. And this isn't even released yet. And you guys are...
Ooh, we get an exclusive.
Yeah. So I posted a video the other day on TikTok and Instagram, but this is the every first build obviously is the prototype. So it's mine. So it's not going to be what the ones off the line look like, because I make the equipment that belongs to me like obnoxious.
Yeah, of course.
But so here we go. I build a piece of equipment called the Seer. So if you've watched like any of my content or anything like that, I'm very, very obsessed with like the theories around
what happened.
Oh my God, there I am.
Yeah.
He was a ghost.
That was my bad. I was trying to look at something and it took you away.
Me talking. I don't even believe in ghosts.
Yeah, and I keep trying to say that my house isn't haunted, but we came down to our pod lab today, and one of our candles that's clear up here in this corners was down in sitting in the chair. And there's no
Was it in your
reason.
chair?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure was. Love that for us. You're going to get us kicked out of here.
Yeah. Her husband threatens to kick us out.
Oh, it's funny. In my workshop, I have like this, which is a Van de Graaff generator, and I have like a Tesla coil, and I use these pieces to like test out my equipment.
Yeah.
And I have come to the point now where I have to also make sure that I'm testing like even the prototypes like off. I go to either Madison Seminary in Madison, Ohio,
Yeah.
or I go to Hillview Manor in Newcastle. And it's just like, at this point, it's just like open door policy. Lauren's here to test some shit. Let her in. Cause like I don't know. I think I've like done this so much, like stuff just falls over in my workshop, like from the wall, it'll just fall over, or things will like jump off the shelves, and like ghosts is a loaded topic for me because I don't actually believe that ghosts are dead people at all.
Okay.
But I have like all this stuff that happens in my workshop, which is cool because then it even more sort of like fuels my ideas around like the presence of static and all of this stuff. But so I built a static sensor, and it's that's the power light. But like when it senses static, see how it like lights up?
Yeah.
So the biggest complaint with the Seer, other than, it's so cool, which it is cool. I love it.
It is cool.
Yeah.
It's a super simple device, and it doesn't have the same false positives as a lot of our equipment does. So like 80%, if not more, of like trigger equipment, even like motion sensors, things like that, can have false positive triggers with things like two-way radios and your cell phones and shortwave radios from the trucker that's driving by, or the police station that's down the street. So there's all of these like
I didn't either.
Yeah. All of these like not necessarily debunkable ways that a lot of our, especially like proximity sensors, like your REM pods and things like that, can be triggered, that can seem paranormal, but it's very much not. And that's what I do a lot of my teaching around. So I built the static device to help sort of like create more of an objective approach. Like if your static device goes off and your REM pod goes off, it's likely not a radio wave, because this, that just like popped behind me, because this doesn't go off with radio waves. So that was the idea behind the static sensor. It was just a really important piece to have in addition to like your EMF devices, because it helps to sort of alleviate a lot of that. Yeah. And the biggest complaint about it is that it lights up really bright, but sometimes it will just like glow if it's just a little, like if it's just like, let me see, I wonder if I can make it do it. It'll just like barely. No, it's not going to do it. It'll just
like it just
glow.
illuminates. Yeah.
It doesn't do like a bright pop or anything. So there's kind of like, we're not sure if that's a hit. We're not sure it's not. So it was like the variation in the triggering of it, and then the fact that it doesn't make any noise. And I'm like really obsessed with Skittles right now. I'm so sorry. I'm not even like being polite about it.
I forgot to make dinner tonight until I was walking down here. So
we have chili cooking downstairs right now, and I have I'm hanging out with you guys, and then I'm hanging out with my friend Dave Giuliano later. And so like I just am smelling this chili just like coming up from downstairs, and it's torture. So I'm like, what can I do? Sugar. But so it doesn't make noise. So I really wanted to tackle that. And it's I'm such a child who needs validation so deeply sometimes. It's such a interesting thing if you are somebody who does a lot of like circuit building or like code writing, things like that. It's
Mhm.
sometimes very difficult to combine analog circuits and microcontrollers to work together to where you're not creating another false positive with this like analog circuit. So you're not turning analog into microcontroller. You're keeping it analog, which is very simplistic. It doesn't have like a chip in it or anything like that. But then you're pairing it with like a microcontroller to give you just some like it has fucking sound, okay? It has sound.
yeah.
Do you curse on this podcast?
Yes.
All right. Well, I just did. So I took the Seer and I had all these different ideas for it. I was going to do some like positive, negative charge, things like that. But I'm like, what people are really, really asking for is like a more prominent trigger and sound. And because I was able to take a huge step away from building, I was able to like really sit down and
Like
problem
hone in
solve.
on that. Yeah.
Yes, the ever living heck out of it. And then I had to make it a little bit bigger too. Because another thing is like I buy a lot of my boxes in bulk, and then I do all this stuff to them.
Yeah.
So they obviously don't look like this when you buy them, but I make them look like this. But these are no longer available in bulk, so I had to end up building the box. So I came up with, and it's fun because it looks like something from like Hellraiser.
It does.
Yeah, it does.
Now the little windows aren't going to be.
I don't even know what it does yet, but I want on the list.
Yep.
Oh my
I
God.
want it.
I'm so happy. So back to your original question. What have you done lately? I was just at. I told you. I was just at the Wandle House Museum field testing this. So I am, little known fact, I am on like a formal paranormal investigation team, Tri-C Ghost Hunters. They're the resident team at the Ohio State Reformatory. And so we had just like a little fun hunt with like a group of us at the Wandle House Museum in Brewster, Ohio. And so I was able to take this and just like do some testing. And the funny thing is with a static sensor, the testing necessarily is like you don't want it to go off excessively at all. So it not going off other than like one time, and we were able to figure out why it went off the one time. It didn't go off at all. And that's really, really good because when you combine, again, something that's very like analog and like a microcontroller, sometimes they can set each other off. Like there's things that can go a little haywire with it.
Yeah, I could see like as somebody like using a piece of equipment like us, like novice ghost hunters, like we would want that to go off all the time. But whenever you're honing things in, like it's good if it doesn't go off because then you know that like you're actually getting activity when it does.
Yeah. Also, I object to calling us novice ghost hunters. We've been doing this a while.
I was going to say, this is no hate at all to people that are like just starting out on their ghost hunter journey. But I can typically, and this isn't even me like tooting my own horn, but like I build my stuff to not go off. So I always can tell if somebody's like newer because they're like, I think it's broken. And I'm like, that's a good thing. If you touch the antenna, does it go off? Well, yeah, then it's not broken.
It's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Point a two-way radio at it. Does it go off? Okay. Yeah, it does. Okay. It's not broken. It's just not a
We find ourselves having to do that after we have an investigation where the REM pod goes off nonstop. And then we're like, okay, it's been 2 hours at this other location and nothing's happening. Let's go touch it, make sure it's working.
Yeah.
Like, so yes, we get that.
90% of your equipment triggers are not at all in any way, shape, or form supernatural.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We try our best to debunk. Like, we don't use two-way radios. If I'm using my phone, it's in airplane mode to try to limit what it can be.
Sure.
But I'd never thought about like the CB radios.
I never thought that either.
Yeah. Or even if it's like somebody's grandpa in their basement who likes to use a two-way radio.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. My husband's late grandfather has a whole like shortwave radio set up in the basement. And I could just stand outside of his house, and if he's using it, I mean, I could get a REM pod to go off. No problem.
Crazy. Yeah. That's something that I'm glad we know because we're going somewhere this weekend that's right along a main highway.
It's going to make me like
Yeah,
really
it's really
think
going to make
about
me
it.
think about it.
Yeah.
We've been there like 5 times, so now I'm going through my head like every REM pod hit there was probably a semi-drive.
The best, and it's not a sales tactic because this is not on the market quite yet. But I will say too. Well, hold on, I'm going to show you this really quick.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then
we all suffer a little bit of ADHD.
So,
I think.
well, the thing is that there are ways that you can sort of help to. You want to diversify the equipment that you're using at a location.
Mhm.
So I hate being like, if you watch any of my content, whatever, if you have seen me on the internet at all, you know that like a big saying of mine is, how do you know it works if you don't know how it works? So if you are able to drill down and figure out within what spectrum of energy is your equipment triggered by? So like what makes it go off? Are you able to trigger it non-paranormally and get the result that you want paranormally?
Right.
That's a really, really important detail because there's a lot of confirmation bias in paranormal, like a lot of very deeply communication based confirmation bias. And even though we can be like, oh, it was validated, oh, it made sense, oh, this and that, if you cannot find results that are predictable and repeatable and testable, it's not like objective data. It's just like cool catches and entertainment.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. And I know a lot of paranormal investigators hate the term entertainment because they think of like Zach Bagans. No.
Right.
No. But collecting paranormal occurrences that are not repeatable, predictable, or testable is it's just entertainment. It's not something that's and that's fine because there are a lot of times that I don't even bring equipment anywhere and I just go because I want to feel some tinglies and I just want to like be pulled back into the world that I'm obsessed with. Because sometimes I'll like science the shit out of stuff and then I'm like, do I even believe in any of this? And then I'm just like, no, you definitely do. There's way too many like things that but none of that's data. And I would never record any of that as like any sort of scientific exploration. It's all entertainment and it's entertainment that keeps you here. And it's so important to have that entertainment factor. The only way that I get sticky is when people are presenting their entertainment stuff as like science-based. That's the only thing that like makes my eye twitch. But there's so many ways.
A lot of sense.
Yes. And people are they feel like they have to be sciencey. No, you don't. It's literally the paranormal. We're looking for ghosts. You don't have to be sciencey about any of it.
Exactly.
Now, like you can approach it in a science way and it's very boring. But you don't have to do any of that. There's plenty of horrifically boring nerd people doing very boring things, but just making them pretty so that they're not so boring. I digress. We're just loud. But
it is important for us to be, try to present an authentic experience. So whenever we're having conversations like these where we're learning, it's always great. It's just going to make us better investigators too. So
absolutely.
It's really great.
And it comes down to like, what do you want out of it? Like what do you want out of exploring the paranormal? And if you're just doing it because it's interesting and it's cool and it's fun, then that's what you're doing it for. Like there's so much like, I can't stand people that are not serious investigators. And I'm like, why not? Like, in every single...
Listen, the amount of parts I have to edit out of our investigation videos.
No, seriously.
Like, don't get me wrong.
People get very...
But
they get very upset. Which is... I get it. But there is a reason for every type... There's a reason for every type of investigator. Even the, okay, maybe not so much the, oh my God, it's demons, because that can be really damaging to locations.
Yeah.
But, there's important, Zach Bagans even plays a role in all of this. People don't realize how many techniques they use in the paranormal because of Zach Bagans. And they
really,
it's a hard pill to swallow. That's a funny pill to swallow, but it's a hard pill to swallow. The REM pod, those REM pods, guys, Gary Galka, That shit first showed up on Ghost Adventures.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's like when it went
Wow.
mainstream. Now, it was being used before that, but Gary Galka didn't come out with the DOS REM pod until 2004. And 2004 was the sci-fi debut of Ghost Hunters. And Zach Bagans took the REM pod mainstream.
Yeah.
Before that, you know, Ghost Hunters and stuff, they were on the Sci-Fi Channel at like 9 o'clock at night on a Thursday. 7 o'clock on a Thursday.
Because I think Ghost Hunters was on at 8 o'clock on
Was
Wednesday.
it? Was it?
I watched it every week with my dad. It was
So did I. So did I. But I'm trying to think. Are you sure it was on Thursdays?
I think Ghost Hunters was on Wednesdays and maybe Ghost Adventures on Thursdays. I think.
I didn't watch Ghost Adventures. I watched Ghost Hunters.
We were
When did
Ghost Hunters
Adventures
people.
come out? Yeah, I was a Ghost Hunters person.
And I mean, I still watch Jason Hawes on YouTube and everything. So
and not just that though, but like Ghost Hunters, they started out, so Ghost Adventures didn't really come out until 2008, so like 4 years later. But like Ghost Hunters, they were just using electricians' equipment and plumbers' equipment. Like they weren't really going heavy because there wasn't a big market for paranormal devices or anything like that. Okay, wait a minute. I'm digressing one more time because I want you guys to hear this.
Yes. Oh, yes. Show us your baby.
So fun. The Seer 3. This is what I've been up to for a bit. So it's still a static device, and it still does the same lighting up, but instead of just that like burst of light, it's now more controlled. So what's going on with my phone? It'll still go off with static.
Oh, I can hear it.
Wait. Here, we'll do this again.
Sounds so cool.
I love that music.
Got to make things spooky. People love when things are spooky. But then also, too, is it going to get me? Let me see. There it goes.
Oh, it goes all the way around. I love
that.
that.
And that's another thing, is that it has the 360 lights.
Yeah.
So that you can see it no matter where you're standing.
Yes.
It has sound now. And it's like insanely sensitive. It went off at the Wandle House when one of the investigators walked by and she was like rubbing her arm on her jacket.
Oh, wow.
And it went up. Yes. And when it comes to static, to me, the more sensitive, the better, because it's picking up on like ambient static, where this really popped when like discharge happened. The ambient static that this picks up on can be a precursor to electromagnetic radiation, because do we know what like the biggest, most natural form of static discharge is in nature?
No.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Now think about what static discharge looks like. What does static discharge look like when you shock something? What's it look like?
Looks like electricity almost.
And what do we see in nature that looks like electricity almost?
Lightning.
That is the biggest. I like that it was at the same time too. I want Bill Nye the Science Guy vibes, and you guys are giving it to me right now. You're like, lightning. And that's the biggest natural form of static discharge. And lightning gives off a huge burst of electromagnetic radiation. And the coolest thing about lightning as a form of static discharge, and thus as a form of, electromagnetic radiation, is that science really has no way quite yet to explain the atmosphere inside a cloud that creates the lightning. We know how lightning's made. We know that it's friction. We know that it's an imbalance of electrons, and we know it's a rapid rebalance of electrons. And that is why between the cloud and the earth and the positive and negative charge.
Talk nerdy to me.
If I could elicit one, like, I want to be like the love child of Bill Nye the Science Guy and Miss Frizzle.
Yes.
That's my dream. But I find it really fascinating.
Yeah.
that we can't really explain the environment that harbors that reaction inside of a storm cloud. And I find that so cool because science, we have an explanation for everything.
Right.
And there are still so many things that are so unexplainable. So I love taking something like that, which is still, otherwise kind of a mystery, and bringing it into the paranormal and like looking for it in the paranormal. Because if we take that idea of static needs friction and an imbalance of electrons, so like cutting through something, like what is like a rip in space time? If not friction, I have to put on my tinfoil hat because I can't talk about like science and then talk about rips in space time because you have to differentiate. So the tinfoil hat differentiates that.
It makes sense.
But you have things like that. You have these theories of how's this phenomena that could go from one location to another, or this or that, or is it sentient, or is it talking to us, or is it not?
Mm-hmm.
There's no real way to explain why phenomena happens, if it's happening, if it's in our brains, which our brains are just as paranormal as the fucking paranormal is. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Is it something that we're creating or anything like that? But there's a high likelihood in a lot of things in physics and, theoretical physics and astrophysics and things like that, that static is so present in a lot of phenomena that happens. So why not fucking look for it? There aren't very many static pods on the market, let alone one that makes noise. And there are none that make noise, so I was really excited about that.
I feel like that meme that's like, shut up and take my money, because that's how I feel right now.
When are you launching this product?
So,
before Friday for our ghost investigation.
Can you meet us in Bel Air, Ohio Friday?
I'm sorry. You'll have to just go back.
We will. It's our favorite place. So
I'm going to be opening up orders in February.
All right. Perfect.
I do have some orders. So before these ran out, I think I have maybe like 6-ish people. And I ended up, they're lucky dogs, those 6 people.
Yeah.
Because I can't make them one of these, so I'm upgrading them for free. So there are a few people that paid for this, and I'll tell you what, these were 75, and these are going to be closer to like the 150 range, just because the box is from scratch. Yeah, everything's from scratch. I still try to make things affordable. I have payment plans and things like that too, but these are going to be more like the 150 range, just because of what has to go into them. Yeah, but they're all going to get one.
An Ovulus, so 150 sounds great.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Listen, when I said make sure that your results are testable, predictable, and repeatable.
Yeah, listen.
Just ignore that. Just ignore that.
Remember, sometimes we can do things for entertainment.
Sometimes we can do things for fun.
Like, is it weird to me that every time I shake it, it gives me a different word? No, it's neat.
No, it's fine. It's cool. And it makes things interesting, because sometimes ghost hunting can be really boring.
Yeah.
Right? It's fine.
Yes.
No big deal.
We just decided we're not going to shake it. We're just going to set it down, and whatever happens, happens.
And when nothing happens, we're not going to be mad.
No.
And you can, the cool thing is too, is like I had an event called Spirit and Science with Sharice Williams, and we used some techniques that were communication based. And I don't do a lot of communication stuff anymore. I am going to deviate a little bit from that. I don't know if I could talk about that though.
Okay.
Next time.
Yeah. Okay.
Real cool. Here I am opening up more Skittles.
I'm feeling right now.
I know.
So I don't typically do communication stuff because, for that reason, But, I do like the woo woo, like I said, I do have a book that I wrote on witchcraft. I do a lot of like witchcraft education. I do a lot of I put crystals on my crystal pods. I put crystal grids on them and things like that. So I like to have a foot in both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
So we were trying to put together some experiments that you could make communication a little bit more objective, because the biggest thing about tools like the Ovulus and the SB7 is that you can't get repeatable results. Right. So there's no way people will throw around the term scientific method, but they don't actually know what the scientific method is. They just like the experiment phase, but they don't even know what experiments are. And I just did a live on the 3 very important variables to a successful experiment in December. And I talked about like the ways that you can really sort of input factors into your experimentation to make your results just a little bit more compelling and a little bit more objective. And you can do that with something like communication. So you can do that by having passwords or code words when it comes to communication. Charisse and I actually went into the location before our event. Mm-hmm. We picked 2 passwords. She pulled a tarot card so that the passcode wasn't even something that we thought up. It was something that was random. She pulled a card. Okay. And then what was my passcode? It was something so silly. Usually my password's banana, but I think I have to change it. It was like pineapple, or it was something. I don't know. I'm always talking about food.
Pineapple is our secret word too, so it's fine.
I'm always hungry. But think of like a password, and then we told it to the space before anybody got there. We told it to the space, every single floor. We were at the Licking County Jail. We went to every floor, and the password is Snuffleupagus. And this is the card. And then we wrote the password and the card on a piece of paper. We put it in a box, and we handed it to the owner of the building, or the manager of the building, so that he could hold on to it, so that we couldn't go in there and change it. We couldn't do any of that stuff because he was holding on to it. So no matter what, he had both of those words. And then we told the group, we put some passwords into the space. We told the space about some passwords. We're going to see if the space can give us those passwords with the spirit box session. And then we took it even further, and we split the group up. One group was on like the 3rd floor, and the other group was in the basement. So no way to hear each other. It was at a jail. Right. And we had 2-way radios because we weren't using any EMF devices. We had a group upstairs. We had a group downstairs. Couldn't hear each other. We were in a jail. Everything's concrete. Right. We had 2-way radios because we weren't using any EMF devices. And then we both had a spirit box. We went around. We had 5 questions that Charisse and I thought up. And then 5 questions that us as a group, people in the event thought up. So 5 random questions, 5 set questions. So we had all of these like independent and control variables. And then we went back and forth trading the walkie-talkie between everybody, and everybody asked a question, but it was in the walkie-talkie. So both groups heard the question. Okay. We played the spirit box. Nobody talked. We just had notebooks, and everybody just wrote down what they thought they heard.
Okay. That's
then
interesting.
We switched groups. We did it again. So we did it twice.
I love
the notebook. Yeah. That's an important one, especially when it comes to like spirit box sessions. I'm constantly saying things that I think are going to get me canceled. The SD session is not.
Oh, we love that.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it's so much cooler to just have everybody listen and write it down and then compare. Because SD session is based on trusting the person that's listening. Yeah. Not that and that's fine. But it's also dependent on the people that you're telling about your really cool SD session also has to trust the person that was listening. And if you can't guarantee that a stranger is going to trust your best friend, then you're just telling another ghost story. Now, if the 3 of us had a session where we all had notebooks and we were playing an SB7, and we're videotaping this, okay?
Yeah.
We're videotaping us. And we're hearing stuff and we're all writing it down. And somehow when we go back through and we're like, okay, what did you guys hear for this question? And we were all like, banana. That's fucking cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
I'm sorry. That's way cooler than somebody with headphones on going, get out.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the dollar store and get a bunch of little notebooks for us for this weekend.
I'm telling you. And it's just, and it gives everybody a chance to feel like the main character. Because that's another thing too. I see so much main character syndrome in paranormal investigating. And I'm like,
yeah,
everybody can feel like the main character. Let's all listen to the SB7. Like, why does it have to be one person? And then you're just sitting there and you're like listening to them like, foot, quesadilla. And you're like, this is so silly. I know. SD session is.
How do you feel about portals?
What the fuck was I just saying about static?
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Ripping space time. Peekaboo.
But I mean the device, the portal.
Oh.
To hook up the spirit box too.
But yeah, those portals too.
Yeah, those two. We're in all the portals.
Lauren's like, if I don't make it, I don't like it.
I'm not going to break your heart even more.
God, no. No. I made a portal. I'll tell you what I don't like about portals.
Okay.
The reverb is just to make it sound spooky. And the noise gate, I think. So I guess it comes down to, what do you think? How do you... If she doesn't make it, she doesn't like it. Listen, that's like...
It was a joke.
That's like... I'll give you 40% true. I'll give you 40% true. Because I don't like portals, but do you guys know who Jeff Fent is?
Yes.
I want one of his boxes, point blank.
At Fairfield at FCICon, we saw one, and I really wanted it.
I do have. He did gift me. Why isn't it? Oh, it's in my backpack. He did gift me one of the hack radios that he uses for his spirit boxes, which is like, I'm saving it forever and I'm going to put it in shadow box. But he did give me one of those. But like, I'm not a big portal person, but but it also comes down to like, what do you think? Like, where do you think the voices are coming from? Do you think that spirit talking things are manipulating the voices on the radio stations? Because that's theory one. Or do you think that they are latching on to radio wave frequencies and speaking through the radio stations, like underneath the radio stations? Because you have people like Jeff Fent who make the Fent box, which is they're gorgeous, hands down. Yeah. And he does a really cool job with balance of noise gate and like still being able to hear what's happening on the radio. Because that's my only issue, is that noise gate gets rid of a lot of noise. And I think sometimes it's getting rid of some of like the cool stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he has a good balance there. And then you have people like, there's Ron Iacovetti and Lourdes Gonzalez who they do the Staticom project. And Staticom is the idea that spirit voices, or these ethereal voices from beyond, are actually coming through in like the white and gray noise, which if you use a noise gate on a portal, gets rid of all that.
Not going to get that.
Then it's gone. So I know that the is like so annoying, but are we getting rid of a huge chunk of, part of that, of a whole entire theory? And we're kind of like throwing it out the window by using a noise gate and getting rid of it. So it really comes down to like, are you doing it both ways? Do I think portals are bad? No, I've made some, I use them. I think fan boxes are beautiful. But I do think it's very useful if you also make sure that you're going on the other side and using, SB7s or whatever have you as is, and you try to listen into the parts.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That does.
Yeah. So no, I don't hate portals.
I
really like supernatural portals, if you can't tell.
Yeah, we love those.
Do you guys know who Dave Giuliano is? It's okay.
No.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the Ghost Hunter store?
Yeah.
Yes.
Dave Giuliano owns that.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever heard of Taps Family Teams?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dave Giuliano made that.
Oh, okay.
He's known Jason Hawes since before he was Jason Hawes. He helped a lot with like the original Taps team and things like that. And he's an OG.
So this is like super cool for you.
Oh my God, he's one of my best friends. So I'm going to say this and he's going to be like, we're doing he's like family, like him and his wife are like family to me and my husband. He actually was the reason why the crystal pod is like all over the world.
Yeah.
wow.
I was at an event and I was just holding like my crystal pod that I made for myself that I had no plans on selling. I just wanted to make it for myself because DOS REM pods are ugly and I didn't want a plastic piece of equipment. So I'm like holding this like amethyst like thing and he's like, what is that? And I was like, oh, at that point I was like still calling them all REM pods. I was like, oh, it's my REM pod I made myself. And he was like, that's a what? And I was like, and he's like, can I see that? And I was like, yeah. And he's looking at it and he's like, can I sell that? And I was like, no, that's mine. And he was like, no, like, do you sell them? And I'm like, no, who are you? and now we're BFFs.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So he like just nagged me and he's like, when are you going to get me? When are you going to give me those pods? When are you going to give me those pods? And then I've been selling now on the Ghost Hunter store for like 3 years now. And I ship to Europe and Australia and Canada.
That's
I have a
awesome.
team that like exclusively uses like a lot of my equipment in Canada. And
Oh,
it's very cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's fun. But I totally didn't. I'll tell you what, that man is on Ghost Hunter time all the time. We're doing an event together. We're doing an event together at Hillview Manor in Newcastle, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And we had like a meeting about the event and we joke and we say that I'm Dave's manager because he's on Ghost Hunter time. So like he literally wakes. I'm going to be amazed if he's awake right now to do this podcast. He'll wake up at like 9 o'clock and he'll be like, oh my God, did I miss it? And I'm like, bro. And he's like, I just took a nap. Because he's like, legitimately, his working hours are like 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. He'll text me things at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, Dave, what are you doing? And he's like, So those have been his hours for like, I don't know, 30 years.
Yeah.
So that's just like the time that he's on now.
Yeah.
I want to
so
quit
funny.
my day job and be a professional ghost hunter.
You know, yes, just because I did it for like a year, but then I was also building stuff. That's what I didn't like. I loved being able to get like cheap hunts because you could do them on a Tuesday night. That was great.
Yeah.
That was great. But being like inundated with just orders, and the biggest thing was it was either I had to expand and hire people or take a step back, and I didn't want anybody else building my stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm a psycho.
You're type A.
Break you down a little bit, make you question stuff. And then I tell you about neuroplasticity, and then your mind fucking melts, and then you're not sure at all if you're seeing a shadow person or if that's like a praying mantis monster staring you in the face and your brain is just protecting you from it. So don't worry. This is just phase 1.
Okay.
We love it.
Phase 1. Phase 1 is just, is it real? And then phase 2 is like, it's all real. Am I seeing it how it's supposed to be? Oh my God.
Lauren, thank you so much for coming and chatting with us and making us think.
Yes, thanks. We love thinking.
Me too. Me too. We're doing this again.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And if you guys made it to the end of this video, make sure you leave us a crystal emoji.
Yeah, that works.
And go follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Spooky Sleuths Pod.
Go follow Lauren at all of her socials listed in the description at Lauren Haunts. Is it most everything? Lauren
Everything.
Haunts? At Lauren Haunts on everything. You can find her on TikTok, Instagram, everywhere.
And then on 3, we're all going to say, stay spooky, friends, together. Yes. 1, 2, 3. Stay spooky,
friends!
friends!